Hello. It was a terrible video that we have just seen, and this proves once again that time does not heal wounds. It's been a year since the Russians have committed their crimes here in Bucha, but the pain is still here with each image that we see in the screen. A month ago in Lviv we started this difficult but so necessary conversation about Russia's crime in Ukraine, and during the United for Justice conference we heard some evidence of rape committed by Russians in Ukraine, and now we are speaking of atrocities committed at the scope of entire city. The city whose name became a synonym of pain. Bucha is forever a city associated with pain. Prior to Russia's invasion, it was a city of parks, a city of young families with little children. Right now, it's a city known by all types of crimes and tortures committed by Russians against peaceful civilians. Today, all of us walked the streets of Bucha. We could see it reviving, but a year ago in this street there were bodies of dead people, the locals, some with their hands bound, with the packs of food they were trying to get under the shells. Some were found near their bicycles. For instance, Irina Filkina, who was shot dead by Russians when she was riding home from work, and that picture of her hand with red manicure that became a symbol of our tragedy known around the world. The invaders were shooting at people who tried to evacuate, and you could see in this video that there were little boys, Matvey and Klim. Their mother, Margarita, died. Their father, Alexander, lost his legs. So we saw them in the video, and if we know the background of this family, we understand their tragedy deeper. This was a family that had left Donbass before fleeing from the aggressor, and here in the cozy Bucha, they thought they finally found their peace, but no, the aggressor found them here as well. People were killed right there in their homes, and you will hear today from one of the first-hand witnesses. People under occupation did not have access to food and healthcare, and that's a crime in and of itself. This happened to a mother of a 10-year-old lad and 6-year-old Vova. She died in the shelter when she had a heart attack, and there was no one to help her. She was buried right there in the yard of her home, and children were bringing some food to her grave. Food was so valuable in Bucha. So these are just some of the examples of what happened there. So some numbers once again. In Bucha and Bucha district alone, 89 children suffered, 37 of whom died and 52 were injured. According to the official data, Russians killed 465 Ukrainian children. And of course the real numbers are much higher because we don't know what's happening in the occupied territories, and it's frightening. Also, over 19,000 children were kidnapped and deported to Russia. Despite all the efforts, we were able to bring back only 327 children. So here is a difficult question. These people who have seen Bucha, who have seen the killings, the tortures, who have survived the enemy rule and the shells, how should they live on with this? People like Vova and Vlad, they are being rehabilitated by psychologists, but psychologists are a necessary help for the entire country because Bucha is just of the numerous names of the numerous tragedies. Each Ukrainian over this year of war has their own Bucha in their heart. And this is why the Ukrainian mental health program was launched with the communication campaign, the slogan of which is, "How are you doing?" Because to grieve and to survive through all these emotions, we need to discuss the things and we need to hear the things. Today we will hear the stories of people who survived Bucha. I am very grateful to these people for bearing witness for the entire world. This is so important because we need to make sure that every Russian crimes against humanity is brought to justice. It's important not only for Ukraine but also for the world because the murder of civilians should not become a norm and it should not come to the minds of any other dictator in the world to repeat these genocides. People should not bury their parents in the yards and people should not cry for their children in the shelled cars. Bucha should stand for not only a tragedy, but it should also stand for punishment for the crimes. And I am sure that the world needs this. Thank you so much.